Hello and welcome to Locked In FPL. We're back from the international break for Gameweek 4. I am excited to bring you a special guest, Nick Triggerlips, an old friend of the show, back after a few seasons. Looking forward to speaking to him about how he got into FPL, his favorite memories, also touch on his 4 times top 1K finishes, which is incredible, and talk a little bit about Chelsea and his wildcard, because as I understand it, Nick, you're already on a wildcard in game week 4. So welcome to the channel, Nick. Pleasure to have you,
Hi
man.
there. Oh, good to be back again. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Too long. Do you remember the old story? I think we'll say it for comedy. Do you remember there was that time when you came on as a guest and you guys had been going for like 20 minutes and people in the comments were saying, guys, you're not live, and you had to restart the show? Do you remember that?
Oh, that's right. I remember. There's carnage, isn't it?
So please let us know in the chat, guys, if we're not live. On that note, we don't want to do that to Nick twice. It's 5 a.m. in New Zealand. He's 1 day ahead. He's traveled to the future. It's Thursday, the 12th of December for you, isn't it?
It is. That's how I do so well I used to do well in FPL. Get the results before you lot are even woken up.
I love that.
Yeah, I'm normally up early, so it's not too much of a hardship to be on.
Awesome. So what I'd like to do first, Nick, is I'd like to just go through how you got into FPL. And like, I've got your kind of rank history here. I know you began playing in kind of 2007, 2008. So not too long before me. I think I began in maybe 2012 season. But how did you get into it? And I guess kind of like, what was it that appealed to you? Because what I can see here, and for anyone who's listening on podcast, I just think I'll quickly read this out, just because obviously they won't see this graphic. I always talk about how there's this 3-year spell where, maybe even a 5-year spell, where you're probably the best FPL manager in the world, I would say. So like in 2010 to 2013, you obviously had 3 top 1K finishes, but these ranks were 434th, 776th, and then 35th. And then within this 5-year period, so the following 2 years, your worst rank was 1.7K and then another 590th finish. So like, how did you get into FPL, and how did you so quickly go through that 5-year period? Like, that's insane. Like, I can't think of anyone who has a record like that over any spell of FPL. Like, I just have to know, like, because to me, you've always been one of the best FPL managers of all time for this kind of run you had.
FPL, not so much FPL, but fantasy football. I started playing way back. It was like the mid-90s, I think. I saw an advert in a local paper for a league to play, the Premier League or whatever it was. I don't even know. Yeah, it would have been the Premier League again, wouldn't it? Just about. But that was played by mail, and we used to send off our transfers every week to Wellington, and then we get a big sheet back of everybody's transfers, and so that's how I started. That was a long time ago. I mean, I think I picked Beckham in my first season. He was only about 17. And that's how long ago that was. But this game here, I was playing another one as well with the Fantasy Pink or whatever it was called. I don't know if you remember that. It was like the original kind of fantasy before this one took over.
Before my time, I think. Yeah, before my
time.
Yeah.
Then I don't know what happened to that one. Then I started playing this one. And it was pretty weird, to be honest, because I was just playing in my local work league. And I went on Scout and whatnot. I used to be on the dead zone and everything. But then I started having all these like crazy good finishes. I remember the first one I finished 400 and something. And the guy at work, he said to me, "Oh, it's really great. You're never going to do that again. Enjoy it. You're never going to do it again." And then the next like 4 years were pretty much the same thing. And it was like, I don't know why. It was just crazy. I didn't do much. I mean, I was just playing my normal game, talking on the dead zone at night. And basically, yeah, I don't know why. It was strange.
I have a question for you then, because I do think that there is I don't know like whether this is still relevant today, but I remember that you had a piece of content that was almost like a 10 commandments of FPL, and I used to read this in the preseason a lot. Do you, I guess, yeah, the question is like, do you still stand by those rules back then? Equally, if you don't, do you feel like certain things have changed, like certain principles that you went by back then have changed? Because maybe it is just as simple as you played by certain sets of principles, and back then there wasn't as many maybe engaged managers who played with those principles, and you'd found the right kind of magic, I don't know, the blueprint to success.
Yeah, that was it, I think, really, wasn't it? I mean, I was doing basically what people do now, and most people weren't. It's like, like I had a template with various price points and all the things that people do now, as I was doing then. And then other people started doing it too, didn't they? And so the edge kind of disappeared after a while, I guess. But as to what exactly it was, it's difficult to know, because I don't think I played any differently in the next few seasons. Although you see the next 3 seasons, actually, I didn't do too badly, I guess. 56,000 was the worst score. And what year was COVID? That was about 20 or 21 or
Yeah,
whatever.
so that's your 100K. That's still again great. Like for me, right? Like I think you know this. For about 6-7 years now, I always aim to get like about top 100K. So for me, when I see a history like this, obviously it has the incredible finishes too, but even really like some of the tougher finishes, they're not that bad. They're like the rank I aim for in any given season. So for you, maybe you were disappointed after the highs of
Me,
that
though,
5 years. Yeah.
for me, they're bloody awful.
I
I
love
look
that.
at them and I think, I mean, last year I actually gave up. I stopped playing because that one, what was it? One, not last
Oh,
year, the
that's a
year
top
before.
1%. I was about to say the year
I
before, I
pretty
thought he
much
must have
gave up
quit.
in that year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when I saw that 7-digit rank, I was like, this is when he quit and started playing chess full time and just fucked off FPL
that's
basically.
exactly what happened. Because I'm always after a top 1K finish. I just want another 1K finish. And as soon as I realise I can't get one, I kind of give up slightly. I mean, I'm playing other formats and stuff. And so that one, yeah, last year was interesting because I was doing really badly. I was about 3 million, I think, at Christmas time. And but I ended up finishing 82K, which isn't too bad, is it, really, I
Did it
suppose?
feel like a slog? Because I had what I considered the worst start in 8 seasons for
Mm.
FPL, right? And it actually ended up being one of my like fourth or fifth best finishes. So similar to you, I think I finished similar rank. And it just felt like such a slog. Everything
Mm.
about it felt painful. Like, I don't know if it's because the price points were kind of wrong or whether just the game had gotten stale because they'd not changed any rules for 8 years. But despite getting an okay finish, because that's a top 1% finish, really, like it's more than top 1%, that 82K. I'm guessing something, I don't know if you relate to that. Like, how did you find last season as a whole?
Not just last season, the last 3 or 4 seasons, I've really struggled mentally to be bothered playing because nothing changed. The pricing was ridiculous. It was all far too easy. I mean, I know saying it's easy doesn't help you get a good rank, does it? Because it's easy for everybody, but it's a lot less kind of mentally challenging. And so it's not so, it's difficult to really get into it. Everyone's got the same team and everyone had Haaland and everybody, didn't they? And but this year's so much better. I'm really enjoying it again now. This feels more like it used to be back in like 5+ years ago, when you can't have everybody. You've got to make tough decisions. But all week on my wild card, I spent a whole week. I still haven't got a clue what I'm doing. I wish I'd never pressed the bloody button because I haven't. It's just so difficult. And but that's how it should be, isn't it? It's
I think
like,
that's where the fun is, right? Like, I remember so many sleepless nights kind of sitting there in my brain, racking up different transfer moves, or like, should I get this guy or that guy? And what will I do in a few weeks? And writing notes in my phone notepad. And like, some of that joy has been gone for a while. This year, I just feel like I'm seeing differences in teams, and it's quite exciting again. It's been such a long time since it felt like that.
yeah, I know. It's definitely. I mean, even last week when Haaland got his hat trick, and you think, "Oh, great, I've done really well this week," and then the next day Salah goes and does the same, and it's just like you just can't put a lid on everything, can you? It's so many different ways to play in that. So It makes
What
it
were
a
your
lot more
thoughts?
interesting.
What were your thoughts on the early celebrators who said that you're not playing FPL right if you don't have Haaland, you're an idiot on the Saturday, and by the Sunday both Salah and Haaland had the exact same number of points so far?
It was bloody annoying, to be honest, because I was one of well, I wasn't talking like that, but I was quite happy thinking, oh, thank God I've got Haaland. And now, even because I didn't want him, to be honest, I only wanted him for that Ipswich game because I was really annoyed they were playing Ipswich because I didn't want to start the season with Haaland because I think he's overpriced. And so I had to get him, but then I was quite pleased. But now I'm on Wildcard. I'm thinking of getting rid of him again now because everyone's buying him. So I'm thinking it's a good chance to differentiate. So
Before we go more into this season, I just want to before we get into this season, Nick, I want to go back to 2014 because obviously that was in that period of 5 seasons where you basically finished what 4 times top 1K, and the only rank that wasn't top 1K was 1.7K. And if you go by my mathematics, I call that top 1K. I know a lot of people in the chat disagree with me, and it's a controversial opinion, but I don't care. It starts with a 1, it's a top 1K. Nick, on this channel, I'm going to rename the description of the video and say you have 5 top 1Ks as far as I'm concerned. But in that final season of that, jokes aside, this was your game week 1 team. You had 79 points. The average at the time was 47 points. I think it's a 5,000 game week rank. You said this was your favorite memory in FPL. I'd love you to talk us through it a little bit and kind of even the graphics are a throwback. I see the FIFA 15 hoardings on the boards. I see bloody hell, like Chester 15 pointer in the defense, like Aaron Ramsey, Fabregas at Chelsea, Sigurdsson, Wayne Rooney captain. What a throwback, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. I keep all records of all these things, so I quite enjoy looking back. But this season, I was on holiday in the UK, and I was at a fete, I think, down in Cornwall somewhere, some kind of event. So I had limited coverage of what was going on, and every time I turned the radio on, there was like someone was scoring, like Sigurdsson and Fabregas, Ramsey, Rooney, Costa, all, and then blooming Chester scored. When I went for a really cheap defense, this defense I had here was like, they're all 4.5s, I think. And everybody else had the likes of Harvey Barnes and all these players that were like 7 million or whatever. And I just went with a really cheap defense. I stuck Chester in. He was away at QPR. You know, and you don't pick whole players, do you? I mean, let's be honest. But I picked him, put him in, and he scored the only goal in the game and got 15 points. So it was crazy. And when I look back at this, and I see my team was quite a bit different from the other teams that were all on Fantasy Scout or whatever. But now it's like everyone's got this. Even I do it now. I've got the same blooming team as everyone else at the start almost. And like Twitter and that's kind of taken the joy out of it in a way. I think it's kind of subconsciously led us all down, leads us all down the same path, doesn't it? But the joy of having a team like this and it coming off, I think that's the most exciting thing can happen in FPL. You know, when you pick a real differential or a number of differentials and it works, that feeling is so good that you can't really get it these days. When you
can't beat it,
you know,
can you?
if you get Rodgers and he gets a hat trick, you know, a million other people crowing on Twitter that they got. Well, if you haven't got him, it's a disaster. But if you do, you know, it's not that same feeling as having a Chester or somebody like that, you know. So, but that was a crazy. But this was the only season I didn't get in the top 1,000. So I actually only finished 1,700. I was annoyed this season because I only finished 1,700. But to me, that was a failure. But yeah. But I think that's the best start I've ever had.
I think it looks unbelievable. It looks unbelievable. One thing I want to ask you about, because I actually was going to ask it before, was about this kind of cheap defense and the good old days of trying to skimp out as much at the back as possible. I noticed that your entire bench scored 0 that week.
No. It didn't actually. Klein scored a goal.
Okay.
I think it didn't used to show it in those days.
I see. I was about to say, like, that's like, okay, so that must be an old thing. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't score 0 because I know Klein scored. I think he went. It must be a Southampton kit, is it? Can't remember now. Would have been Southampton. But yes, I thought that was strange too. But obviously, they never used to show the points in those days.
Makes sense. And by the way, just so you know, in the background, I've gone and found the file from your last appearance on Net That Hall, and I'm trying to upload it in the background for later in the show.
Oh, not again.
This will definitely be the last time it gets wheeled out. Oh god. All right, we'll go into FPL because we're 15 minutes in. I'm sure there's a couple shout outs we owe in the chat, so I'm just going to timestamp this as well to do some shout outs, and we'll start starring your questions, guys, for the live Q&A at the end as always. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate Nick coming on at 5 a.m. tomorrow in New Zealand. He is coming from the future, as I mentioned. We're going to look at your Gameweek 3 team, some data, Chelsea, as I mentioned, thoughts on Wildcard, lots of great FPL content for Gameweek 4. But before that, I just really quickly want to shout everyone out who's tuned in live and thank you all for your support. Podner, what's up, Podners? Thank you for tuning in, buddy. Gary Swan, this is actually FPL Chess, in case you didn't know, Nick. So he's an old friend of the show as well. Claire FPL, good to see you. Evening. Getty FPL, good evening all. FPL Maggot, good evening, buddy. FPL Bateman, he's obviously in the real community.
What's with this evening business that people keep?
It's all Unai Emery, isn't it? They're all still holding on to him. He's become a cult classic. David Harrison, hi guys. BW Splitter, howdy all from the US. Good to see you live, buddy. Robin Popplewell, goodbye international break forever. I wish that was the case. I feel like we're only 3-4 games away from the bloody next one. Elron Cupboard, ahoy shippers. Delia says, this comes in handy. I don't know what I should do with Palmer, so we'll get to the Chelsea section for sure. Kanji FPL, hello. So Podner is what prompted me to download the clip. He said, is Gray going to score tonight? Gary says, Nick is a legend. Focal, fun fact. Good to see you, Oscar. He says, before I ever made FPL content, I DM'd Nick to invite him on the FPL subreddit for an Ask Me Anything. So that's very fun. That's actually where I started out in the community. So I was kind of using Scout to like find data, and then I was on Reddit and I was lurking and looking for injury news and lineup news. And it was only then I eventually found Twitter. I wasn't really a Twitter guy. I was just on the daily RMT threads giving people opinions. And one day I thought, who are these random people I'm getting opinions from on my team? Like, they're just like random lurkers on FPL subreddit like me, and I have no idea of their credentials. Like, maybe I should go to X where I can like kind of start putting names to faces and actually be part of a community. I think Reddit became a lot more toxic eventually in the later years. Bateman says Nick is no nonsense in FPL as he is with the FPL community. Greg Frost, thanks for tuning in. Say Nick never minded ruffling a few feathers in the FF Scout forum. The double pivot pod, good to see you guys. Yes, pal, good evening. Maggot says, what an impressive record. So Greg Frost is currently taking a -4 to get Lewis for 4.6 million, is still tempting me to push wildcard. I'll start that to come back to in the Q&A as a comment. Podner says, hit that like button. So yes, please, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please do hit that like button. So Jamie T, easy trigger, long time chat. Remember you being on the Scout cast with Joe and Co. We have, what else do we have? So Greg's had an incredible start. Doesn't own Salah or Haaland. Bench boost game week 1. Hasn't used triple captain. 162k rank. And captaining Eze, Trent, or Diaz this week. I like that a lot. Any final bits? So Gary Swan just says, Nick on 3 million last Christmas, reaching top 80k is above and beyond. FPL Frazzled. Morning and evening to you both. And yeah, FPL Dad, thank you for tuning in, buddy. What's the crack, Nima? Great stuff. But so everyone, we will keep putting your comments up on screen as we go. I'm just going to timestamp this as 19 minutes so the poor podcast listeners can skip the last 4 minutes of shout outs to live attendees. And I'm going to stop talking, Nick, and ask you to tell us about how last week went and I guess what prompted you to hit that wild card, which you now kind of potentially regret pressing because you just don't know who to pick.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, last week, I think that was my first red arrow last week, actually. I knew it would be coming on this program. I think I said that to you, didn't I?
You said you always have a red arrow before you go on any show.
Yeah.
And I was like, don't worry, we're going to break the curse.
But it's not. I haven't had a bad start, I'd say. What's this, am I 1.5 million? Yeah, it's not too bad. So wildcard, yeah, I don't know really. Let's see, who are my problems? Johnson doesn't play for, but that didn't really matter, did it? I mean, I could have quite easily lived with him. Hall, another problem. Probably dropping in price. I mean, I know the prices have slowed down midweek, but you've got to think of like an international week is really 1 week. And people say, oh, the prices aren't changing, but it'll be about the same amount as in a normal week. It'll probably pick up again today or tomorrow, I think. And so Hall probably will drop. Isaac might drop, although he's reasonable to have in. Muniz, I wasn't overly happy with him. And in the midfield, Gibbs White, you've got a few points in Gibbs White, but they're away to Liverpool this week. And its good fixtures are running out. Jota, I've got a feeling Jota might not even play this week. I mean, what's his face? Darwin's been hanging around with nothing else to do, hasn't he? Because he's banned from internationals. So, I mean, he could well come in this week. Defence is looking, actually, defence isn't too bad apart from Hall and Johnson. So, yeah, there's really no need to wildcard this team. But I do like to wildcard early, and not having Salah is kind of annoying me. I mean, he's gone up 0.1 this week, which isn't much, but I mean, he could go up again. And Saka, don't know what to do with him. Madueke, don't know. I might keep him, might not. I've got 2 price rises out of him already, so locked one in. Yeah, so basically wildcard. Another reason for wildcarding was that it's much better to do it at the start of a week than the end of the week. And I knew that one more problem on international duty, like even one injury or anything, would make this team where it needed a wild card. So that I thought I'd just press the button and get it over with. And it gave me something to do. And I want Palmer as well. That's the other thing. And there's no way I can get Palmer in with this team. So I thought I'd just wild card it and see what happens, basically.
I have a question for you. So yeah, this team's similar to mine in a sense. I moved early with 2 free transfers with the mentality that should I get any issues or injuries, even one, I could then just wildcard and try to get my 2 free transfers back and then like keep rolling. That problem did occur now. So I have a bench of Lewis, Hall, and Barco, and Conser went off for England. I bring him up because of your infamous Conser, Duncan, Winks. I don't know if that's the correct order. So yeah,
so believe it when I went on to that league, and they all had exactly the same bench, like Dunk, Conser, Winks. I was going through the teams one after the other. Dunk, Conser, Winks.
I thought you'd like that. I had to bring that one up. So what's funny is obviously I've been doing the new pod with Simon, who's analytic FPL, and he actually named one of the episodes Dunk, Conser, Winks, I think, afterwards. I feel like someone, I think it was Sam Sports Science, he was saying, look, you need to get these guys to like send like letters to each other back and forth each week. And I was like, no. One day we need to get Nick on the other podcast, Expected Grass, and have them go at it fully on air, like just live, no filter. Because you know me, like I like everyone. I like every style of playing. I like stirring the pot. You know, like you know as well. I know you hate leakers, for example. When I confess to you, I used to be a leaker once. You forgave me for my sins. You know, I'd like to think, despite my past errors, we're still friends. So I have Conser. I hope you can forgive me. And I think I've had karma for it with that injury.
Well, I wish I had Dunk, Conser, Winks myself, actually, because they were pretty good picks, really, weren't they? I mean, Dunk would have been very good this week. And I'm a bit annoyed Conser got injured because I don't rate him particularly. And I think if people are going to play Dunk instead of Conser, then they're going to do better than if they'd had Conser. Or if they're playing Robinson, for example. Because Conser, I mean, he might get a clean sheet, but he's not going to get any attacking returns, is he? So I think what we're going to find now is a lot of these Conser owners are going to get loads of points off the bench. That's how it normally works, isn't it? So,
maybe this is the week Lewis Hall suddenly starts. Yeah, maybe that's what happens. Maybe Concer's out, Lewis Hall starts, gets a clean sheet because he's subbed in the 60th minute, gets free
Yeah,
bonus.
yeah.
You know, I could
Something
dream,
jammy
right?
will happen. Yeah, they'll
I,
get their
I,
luck somewhere.
I know you love
Or
jammy
even
returns.
Winks to score a goal.
Oh man, I remember the days when people would get injured and I'd always have a 4.5 million midfielder and everyone would be like, okay, I'm going to sell someone to get someone in. And I'd be like,
Mm.
but why? Like, I just played my 4.5 million mid and everyone's like, no, they're never going to get a return. And I'm pretty sure a few times I got super lucky and like I got like 10 pointers out of like some random crappy 4.5 million mid. So it does happen. It does happen. I think you can definitely overmanage in FPL. I'd like to learn how to play the new style where you can roll to 5 transfers and like
Yeah,
be more
especially
patient.
now. Mm. Yeah, now I think you do play Winks, don't you, with the new rules? Because
I would.
saving a transfer is now much more valuable. I mean, I've been unlucky in the sense that I had Solanke, so I had to make a transfer the first week. I think if Solanke hadn't got injured, we'd be looking at a whole better rank now. I mean, I think he would have got loads of points in that second match when he missed. I can't remember who they played, but they battered somebody, and I'm sure he would have
Yeah, the
got
first 2
points.
games were great. Yeah, they were the fixtures to
Mm.
target, right?
And then they've had 2 free transfers, no need to wildcard. You know, one little thing goes wrong and it kind of can snowball pretty quickly, can't it? And like before you know it, you've got no transfers, you've got a few problems, and it can happen really quickly. So I think I've got to be a lot more strict in not making transfers. You know, you've got to forget about the shiny new toys and just not make a transfer and play one of your bench players. So even if you get a few less points, having that extra transfer is going to be really good. I mean, I slagged off all those analytics people for having the same team and for like keeping Quanza and losing 0.2 on Quanza and losing money on Fernandez and Eze and all these people, but the team value's dropping. But then I look at their teams now and they've got really good looking teams. You know, they've got Eze and Fernandez in this week, Dunk, Conser, Winks, and all these people all in their teams. And I think they're doing well. They're obviously saving up transfers by not taking Quanser out. So it's going to be quite interesting, isn't it? It's another thing that shows the differences in the way that you can play the game this season. It's going to be very interesting. You know, is getting higher team value going to be better than saving transfers or saving wildcards? We just don't know, do we?
And that's what's exciting, right? It's like a fresh new world. And in a way,
Yeah.
models need to learn that too, right? So models historically would have probably had a certain points value associated with a transfer. I know some people always used to say like they treat free transfers as like a 4-point hit because that's how much the additional transfer costs. With the way we can roll them now and you can roll them through the chips, it's hard to know how to value a transfer anymore. And I think equally, like that's something we're going to learn. So I do think that if you kind of figure it out faster than the data catches up, there is an opportunity. And just to look at like the ranks and how condensed they are, like you're only 89 points from first right now. Like, you know, anything is still
So
possible
that
at this
many.
stage. Yeah, well, anything is still possible, right? Well, let's say like 100K, you're 30 points from 100K at 1.5 million. Like, it's not going to be like that in 30 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, these gaps will get bigger. So, right now, I don't really care for rank. Like, I
It
think
doesn't
10
matter,
weeks in,
does
we
it?
look at it, right? Like, right now, we don't need to worry too much about rank. So, what do you
Even
think your mark
until
on?
the end, even until game 38, it doesn't matter because,
Mhm.
I mean, look at last season. I was 3 million at Christmas, comes through to 80K because it's all the chips and everything just totally distort. That's what I hate the most about the chips. You can never look at the table and see where you really are because so many of you are triple captain and some of you are bench boost. And the ranks are just unrealistic, aren't they? They don't really show the true picture until right at the end. So it's pretty pointless trying to see where you are in comparison to other people in a way, especially this early on.
So would you agree that because I kind of start to look at like my mini leagues where maybe I'm winning or I'm chasing in the last kind of I'd say 4 or 5 weeks, I really start to like think about them. But I've got friends, right, who like they'll see I have someone in my team in game week 2 who got points and they'll buy him in game week 3. Like I know people who will like try to compete and like see what people above them in mini leagues have like 2, 3 weeks in. I just feel like I'm playing against myself and my own previous best. Same to how you're competing to try and get top 1K. That's your goal. I'm just trying to beat my previous best. Like, it's like a time trial for me. Like, you know, like in the racing games, they have the ghost car and you're trying to beat your previous ghost and finish the lap faster. Like, I'm just kind of doing that and hoping that by playing the way I think is right, ultimately people around me will knee jerk or panic or make mistakes and I'll rise naturally, rather than like, oh my God, the people above me have these players, so now I need to do it. I don't know if that kind of resonates with you.
It's very difficult to ignore what everyone's doing, isn't it, these days? It's everything you look at, everything you watch, every time you go on Twitter or whatever, you see, you know, like Rodgers this week. Everyone's getting Rodgers or got Rodgers already, and it kind of starts playing on your head after a while, doesn't it? And you're kind of led, and it's quite difficult to fight it, isn't it? Like that herd instinct. It's tricky. So everyone ends up with the same team, but I'm going to try and put in a few differentials on my wild card, I think. And I'm not just going to look at I think looking at what other people are doing doesn't help. Doesn't help at all, really.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of getting at. But then even on a more minuscule level, I'm looking at it within a mini league setting only. But I guess at the overall wider community of Twitter and the engaged managers there, and again, like, I just think there's so many ways to play that there's nothing wrong with however anyone wants to play. So, like, I know you did the podcast that you said about the analytic managers. I don't know if I think you did see, right, the Wire episode with Prass and Trout, and I think that was a nice accessible way to
that was
explain
very
how
good,
they
that
think.
one. I enjoyed that. It was
You enjoyed that,
well,
right?
very well done. It was he asked all the right questions, and because I don't know much about it myself, and so it's quite interesting.
That's what I mean. It is, right? Like, it's just a tool. And like, in the same way that there's people who just mindlessly copy their favorite content creator week in, week out, or copy team reveals from a site they subscribe to, like, they're all playing in their own way too, right? And I couldn't care less. Like, I don't really care how anyone else plays, like you said about not watching what people are doing. So if someone wants to use tools like analytics tools to kind of map out different paths or do different solves in a way a computer's more powerful than us, I have no aversion. I will use those tools and look at them to sense check my thoughts. A lot of the time, I go against what the computer says, right? And I think that's the difference. So I think there's a difference between trying to win FPL, trying to get consistent ranks, and then on top of that, I just hate the moaning about people. Like, I know people who are like, oh my God, these guys are like paying to see fucking team reveals, or oh my God, these guys are paying to fucking use review. Oh my, like, I don't care. Like, I just want to win. I want to beat my friends. I want to do well. I want to get a triple digit rank like you. Like, I know you talk about them, but I think something people don't realize is you're not talking about that you care how they play. You're worried that long term we get to a point where the computer's so good that not only is there the herd that's hard to avoid, but you worry that, I guess, the FPL would be solved. Is that right? Like, solved in the sense that, like, why would you ever not do what the computer says? Because, like, the computer's figured it out that much.
Solved in the way that it'll ruin the game, because basically, you know, they'll ruin all the mini leagues and everything, your local work leagues, because people in them will be doing that and no longer playing their own games. And I mean, I'll put the analogy in with chess. Like, if everybody was allowed to use an engine when they played chess, then chess would totally die, you know. But luckily you can, not allowed to. But in FPL, there's nothing to stop people from doing that. You know, at the moment it doesn't matter because it's not good enough. I mean, nothing will convince me that having Armstrong in the team and having Edison in goal is a good way to play FPL. I know the engines love them, the analytics, but nothing would ever convince me that they're good picks.
But is that not one thing to touch on then? So is it not that there's a misconception that people are just copying what a model says, when in reality the model says something and then they fine tune it by saying, like, oh, exclude Edison, I never want him. Or maybe the model thinks like a certain player only gets 60, 70 minutes, but you think because of based on what you're watching or tactical tweaks or injuries, you think they're going to get 90 minutes. So you're almost adjusting their baseline and saying, well, they're going to get 90 minutes. Therefore, I think that there's more value in them than the model does. So I believe, like you, the model isn't good enough to just copy blindly. In reality, it's just another tool where it's an interface that you're kind of putting your own assumptions in and your own opinions to like get you to the right answer. I think people just assume that people are like pressing a button and copying. I know you're scared of like a future Terminator style world where
the moment,
you press the button
it
and
is
it's done.
just a tool, isn't it? At the moment, it's just a tool, but sooner or later, it's going to be good enough to realise that Armstrong and Edison aren't good picks. He'll probably score a hat trick this week now, when he Armstrong, but but you know, people sooner or later, it is going to be able to pick all the right picks. And then that's
but do you truly believe that though? Because I feel football is such a high game of variance. Like at any given time, like the favorite can lose a match, right? And everything can go the opposite of like we say the Premier League's great because anyone can beat anyone. Like, so I still believe personally that like I maybe I'm just trying to be optimistic and believe that there is a future where you don't just press a button and like that is the best way to play and it just automates everything. I just don't think that can happen in something like fantasy Premier League because like it's too difficult. Like I just think no matter what, the computer can never be 100% in this.
Yeah, it can't because 38 game weeks isn't long enough for all the variables to play out. You know, if it was 1,000,000 game weeks, you could have a computer that would win.
Then it would win every time. I think.
Time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Luck would be out of it. But with 38 game weeks, you can be a really, really good manager now and still finish 100k or 200k because you haven't had luck. You know, because 38 weeks is a pretty short sample, isn't it? Really. So you know, you can, if you get your captains right or get them wrong, you know, even coin flips, you could have 38 coin flips, and it would be possible to have 38 heads. I mean, very unlikely, but it's possible. You know, so I mean, you could have everything go wrong for 38 weeks, and end up with a bad rank. So the best player is not going to win FPL, probably ever. Do you know what I mean? And
there's a lot of luck involved.
Playing FPL, you could play for 100 years and be the best player without winning FPL quite easily. It'd probably be a surprise if they did win it, the best player. You know, so, I mean, has any of the serious players that are high in the Hall of Fame gone on and won FPL? I don't think any of them have. You know, some are high on the Hall of Fame because they have previously won FPL or previously come close. But have any of them in the top 100 ever gone on to win FPL? I'd say they haven't. So yeah.
I would agree. Even like Fabio Borges and these guys, right? Who like Tom Stevenson, who came on the channel as our first guest in the first year 5 years ago. Like, yeah, a lot of people don't end up winning, but they're like the best manager mathematically in terms of like you in that 3-4 year period, right? Like when you finished here, you know, 400th, 700th, 35th, 1000th, 500, I don't know, like I would believe there's more skill in what you did there than the person who won once and finished 7-digit rank every other year. But then there's obviously people who want to play to win and they're going to play suboptimally, as it might be called, compared to solvers and AI models. But there's nothing wrong with that as well, because if they want to play to win, then yeah, they're going to be on the wrong side of luck a lot too to get that one win. So I guess it comes down to why do you play FPL? And I think I just want to bring up a couple of the comments in the chat. So like FPL FOMO says, where's the fun in copying someone else? Very odd. We also have Bateman says there would never be the sort of conflict in chess that there is in FPL. FPL FOMO says AI couldn't predict price rises, recent red cards, small margins in every game, such as random injuries.
Probably could though, couldn't it?
I think it's because FPL keep the price changes secret, right?
But it could use the sites. It could probably skim the info off the sites that predict FPL rises, couldn't it?
Yeah, but they also don't know the real algorithm, right? Like it's all guesswork. Yeah, like FPL keep it very secret. So Matt Bugsby says someone like Lingard at West Ham is the bane of AI solvers. Yeah, so yeah, I think I just wanted to put some of those comments up because
what's Lingard done?
No, just do you remember his purple patch at West Ham? He was someone I didn't buy until the very end. Severely hurt my rank.
And at the moment, X-Mins is the new mantra, isn't it? Everyone's talking about X-Mins now. But often the big hauls have come from like somebody who hasn't got big X-Mins, like a lot of people avoided Jota because of that, didn't they? But he could have come up and got a hat trick or 3 or 4 goals. And there are a lot of players that only play for 60, 70 minutes that are pretty good and are now being avoided by the AI teams because they don't play for 80 or 90 minutes. So that could be a weakness with the AI, I think.
So there are still, there's opportunities to go against it and get ahead. What do you think about what FPL FOMO said here about where is the fun in copying someone else? Very odd. I would 100% agree, of course, but I think just to clarify what I was saying earlier, like if people want to do that, I don't care. Like my
It's been
mentality
happening
is
for
like,
years.
that's what I mean. Like it's always happened. It's just maybe not been obvious it's been happening, but it has always been happening.
It used to be me that people copy.
That's what I was going to say. Surely people were messaging you like, why did you reveal your team 1 minute after deadline, you arsehole?
Yeah. I remember one year, I think I got to about game week 9 and there were like 11 teams identical to my own one. That was in one of my top 1,000 years. So in the end, I put out a false tweet, and it wasn't a tweet, it was something on Scout, and it upset everybody because I gave out the wrong info on what I was going to do on purpose because I was just sick of everybody copying me. So they all went and got this player in that I said I was going to get. I've got another, and the one I said I was going to get when announced scored the one I got. So then all the people ahead of me were copying me, were all ahead of me. So I shouldn't have done that, but I was just so sick of everybody copying my team. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, but I saw some team 1,700, wasn't it? Had the same team as Bakar, I think, after game week 1. I think it was 1,700 people.
Oh, I remember the clones on live FPL, right?
Hmm.
I think something people don't realize about that as well is that's only your starting 11. It doesn't account for the bench in any way, and I think people
does it
forget that.
not?
Yeah. So that's only the starting 11, which I think means that obviously it's more likely. Now, I thought I'd have a lot of clones because I play quite a template way, and I generally have most of the high-owned players. But it said I only had 3 clones in game week 3, so I was quite shocked. I think it's
Yeah,
because I have a
same.
few weird players, right? I have
I
like
didn't have
Gordon
any.
and you had
I
none.
didn't have any game week 1, but I didn't have an unusual team. I had pretty template team, I think.
That's what I thought. But then maybe 2 or 3 differentials, and that specific combination of them in your 11 is unique to you, right?
Maybe it was having Areola in goal because everybody else went with Henderson, didn't they? So that might
You
have
say
been
that,
it.
but even Henderson, I think, is like quite low compared to Flecken. So it's like I
Oh,
guess
is
there's
it?
so many variations. Yeah, there's so many variations. And I think there's like what the Twitter ownership is versus what the mass ownership is. So you got players like Palmer who had very high ownership, but then maybe amongst like FPL Twitter managers, it wasn't as high. And I think that's a good segue into 2 topics. So one is I see Madueke here. I feel like he was like a 1-week punt just before the wild card. Do you feel that almost forced you into the wild card? And then let's talk
No, mate.
about.
I think he'd do well. I mean, we're
So
going to be
would
talking
you still
about
have him?
Chelsea. I'm thinking of keeping him on my wild card.
Okay.
The only reason I won't keep him probably is because I'm going to be getting Palmer in.
Ooh,
But
I
I think
like that.
I think if you haven't got Palmer, I think there's nothing wrong with Madueke. He looked
Okay.
good for England the other night, didn't he? When he came on, got an assist. He was only
Yeah,
on
got the
for 5
assist.
minutes. Got an assist. He was unlucky last week. He could have had a goal last week. I mean, the main reason I got him was because somebody else was dropping in price. I can't remember who I took him out, bought him in for now. No, but I got a 0.2 rise out of him during the game week after bringing him in. So that like locks in a 0.1 profit for the season.
That, yeah.
And so that was like a 0.2 swing, which over the season is going to be worth a couple of points probably. So I thought, well, if he gets points, he gets points. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I mean, everyone else was bringing in. Who would they bring in? Rogers maybe bringing him.
Yeah.
But
No,
me
I had
ended
him
up
from
on the
game
same
one.
points of the week. But
Yeah,
Madway
I
couldn't
had
beat.
Rogers in game week 1 because I just believed that like he was a nice young talented player. Maybe he'll play second striker behind Watkins. I didn't expect him to play the 90 minutes that he did. I also felt like he's not going to get many attacking returns, but I kind of picked him over Winks, if you like. So for me, he was
Mm,
like my 8th attacker that I thought was better. So I
mm,
was actually a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
annoyed that he looked so good against Arsenal and people brought him in. Obviously, he inevitably did nothing in the game. I actually started him, and yeah.
I'm
So
probably going to have him on my wild card, I think.
he's just so good at that price that like now there is some stuff that in 3 to 4 weeks there is obviously some minutes that could go down with Buendia and his involvement. But I think for
Ah, okay.
now, like there's like he's playing well enough where I just don't understand how he would lose his spot basically. Like when they were trying to win games at
Mm.
1-1, he was the one who stayed for the whole 90 minutes.
The only problem with Villa now is the Champions League. And I think
Mm,
people are going to have underestimated how the new format in the Champions League is going to affect not just them, but Liverpool, Arsenal, not so much City because they've got an easy run of fixtures, I think. But I think people have underestimated what an effect it's going to have in terms of rotation and that type of thing. So I'm a bit wary of Villa. I don't want the striker Watkins because I think the other one. I'd rather have the other one. I think Duran almost. I think
just
he's
to
going to
have
get
as
the
like a
lead.
third striker, right?
I mean, he's got to have a start soon, hasn't he? And he's probably going to get it for the league games and rather than the Champions League matches. So, but it remains to be seen. But he's playing really well. They really rate him as well, don't they?
Yeah, no, he is exciting. Obviously, Greenback goal for Luke. He came on the
Mm,
channel a few weeks ago to talk about Villa, and he did say that with Champions League coming up, and I think it's maybe it's not common knowledge, but it appears that Watkins has been carrying like a knee injury the entire season. Hence,
something's
also,
not.
yeah,
Something's not
something's
right.
not right. Yeah, 100% something's not right. So I do think that there is an opportunity for Duran to like,
Mm,
he is the future of the club. I see some Villa fans, they actually rate him very highly. So with
mm.
Champions League, we need to watch that. And if there's a world in which Watkins is starting Champions League week in, week out, and Duran starts playing in the Premier League, that would be very exciting. So I'm keeping an eye on him. I just want to quickly timestamp this for the podcast listeners. So 47 minutes in, we have a graphic from FPL Under the Radar. These great guys, American guys who do a podcast. They do really nice visualizations, and I asked if I could put this on the show. So just this is expected goal involvements, game week 1 to 3. It's really nicely laid out. There's different kind of shades of blue based on the amount of their own team's expected goal involvements each players have. You can see Liverpool are on about 13 expected goal involvements on the season. Man City just under. Bournemouth is very high up. Probably a lot of that is Semenyo's 50 shots that he's taken. Man United's very high up, so you could argue some of those owners have been unlucky. Brighton is up there, Chelsea's up there, Aston Villa's there. Right at the bottom, there's the likes of Ipswich Town, Vardy pretty much carrying Leicester. Crystal Palace haven't looked so good.
No,
Eze's had like maybe 1.5 expected goal
yeah,
involvement there, but they've not looked so great. Wolves,
I'm
Fulham,
not. I'm
Everton,
not
they're all at the
keen
bottom.
on. Not keen on Eze.
So yeah, what do you think about these guys? Is there anything? Because we won't spend long on this graphic. It's just here, just as a nice visual and to shout out those guys. But is there anything here that maybe makes you think, oh, you know what? I've not considered this player for my wild card, and maybe they're interesting. So like for me, Semenyo is someone where I feel like he was playing up front in a couple of these games, or his stats skewed if he's not going to be playing up front anymore. So yeah, that kind of concerns me. But
Oh, is he not? Is he not going to be?
well, I don't know if he will. That's the thing, right? So it's just like, will that
Mm.
system persist? And maybe someone in the chat knows Bournemouth better than I do. But
I
yes,
mean,
obviously, what do you think?
this is based on what's happened over the first 3 weeks, isn't it? So you can't look at this and say it's going to remain the same. It's obviously in a big state of flux, isn't it? But Pedro's quite low down, isn't he, for Brighton?
Mm. Yeah. So what in Brighton, just for the podcast listeners, we have Mitoma,
Mitoma.
Minte, and Wilbeck. All of them
Yeah, I'm
have.
thinking if I go do a short term punt on my wildcard, it's going to be Welbeck. rather than Pedro. Because
I like that. I see a lot of people hating on Welbeck. I think it's just because he's price risen a bit and they can't
yeah, and
get
he's a
more.
bit old, I suppose, isn't he? But I mean, he's doing well, isn't he? I don't see why Pedro. I suppose Pedro's on penalties. I mean, if it had a penalty, he probably would have been much higher up on that list, wouldn't he?
So I think there's only been 2 penalties so far as well, right? I think there was the Haaland
Yeah,
penalty.
only two, and one of them was missed, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Haaland's the only one who scored one.
yeah. So like maybe that's also quite unusual. Like maybe there's normally more penalties by this stage. So like, again, like would a lot of this change? Should we start to see more penalties?
Yeah, but
But yeah,
apparently they have changed the rules a little bit, haven't they? They're not going
I
to be
know they
giving
have on
out.
handball. They have on handball. Have you read that?
So maybe there aren't going to be as many penalties.
Because they've talked about they've kind of said like we don't expect you to have your arms behind your back and play in this really weird way just so it doesn't hit you.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
like, as long as like other factors are taken in, like how close it is and some more common sense, I suppose. But we won't stay here long because I know that we want to talk a little bit more about Chelsea and take live questions, but there's lots of them starred in the chat from them, lots of very patient viewers. This is another graphic from RobTFPL. I always like this one. It's just from the spread betting markets. Kind of shows the expected goals per game, clean sheet odds. The big call outs for podcast listeners are that Man City have the highest expected goals of the week on 2.95 in the bookies markets, Liverpool 2.8, Brighton 2.4, Aston Villa 2.15, Crystal Palace 2.0, Man United 1.95, Chelsea 1.95, Newcastle 1.85, Arsenal 1.8. So yeah, what are your thoughts here? Because there's been a lot of talk about why are people selling like Isaac, why are people selling Saka? You're on a wild card, so I don't know if you intend on having an Arsenal attacker or keeping Isaac, who was in your team.
I'm hoping Saka drops in price. Mind you, it doesn't really matter actually Saka's price, but I probably will keep Saka in my team, I think, because of the game week 6 fixtures improved, don't they? So I'm still up in the air on Isaac. Jackson I'm looking at, and even the Everton striker, Calvert-Lewin, I'm looking at as well.
He's someone who's slowly started being talked about as an option.
Thing is, if I get Rodgers as my 5th midfielder, I'll be starting Rodgers and putting Calvert-Lewin on the bench because Everton have got some fantastic fixtures, and it's just a question of whether he can stay fit or not. I think if he stays fit, he's going to do well, and Everton will turn around. I mean, this is an example of how 3 weeks in, I think Arsenal last year or a year before started really poorly in the season, didn't they? And
it was before Raya came in.
Arteta should be sacked and everything, and they end up in 2nd place. So you can't go by Everton because they've started awful, but they're not going to stay that way.
Yeah, I'm just looking at them in this graphic. Okay, so they've got Harrison, McNeil, Tarkovsky, and DCL for the goal involvements, but you would expect it to get better from here. Like they need to start improving quickly if they don't want to get relegated.
You'd think the teams that have started badly are actually, in some ways, probably the teams to watch rather than the teams that have overperformed in the first 3 weeks that are going to drop off. It's like, I don't think you can read too much into Bournemouth, and like I said, it's a very small sample, but Calvert-Lewin's interesting, I think.
He was on the watch list. Yeah, so he was on the watch list when Luke came on a few weeks back. I've always had a soft spot for him. I don't think now, but there was a period where when Watkins and Bamford and Calvert-Lewin, they were all there. They were like getting close to 15 league goals. There was a period when Calvert-Lewin really, there was talks of him going to places like Arsenal for 100 million. Like there was a period when he really looked like he was going to be great. And I think he brings something special to that team, but it's just the staying fit part. I think that is definitely hit the nail on the head. And I also think he's also maybe not the player he was pre some of those injuries. So he's almost like he wants to take the game and be the one to win it, but he's kind of taking shots that he's not able to finish. And I wonder if with the right coaching, was he like potentially able to just pass the ball a few of those times and give it to someone else to finish because maybe he's not the same Calvert-Lewin as back then. But in terms of like as an aerial threat and like battling against 2 centre backs, like I remember watching him against Arsenal live and like he's just a fucking nightmare. Like you don't want to be dealing with this guy in the air. Like, he just somehow always gets to the ball, knocks it down to his teammate. Like, it's just super frustrating to play against. But I just think he lost a little bit of that magic after the injury. I don't know if it's confidence or he's scared of his own body getting injured again or what it is. But I really have a soft spot for him. I don't understand the hate on him.
Yeah, there's a good player in there. I think with the fixtures they've got, I think if he does stay fit, he will justify his price. You know, it's, for that price, there's not really any better options, I think, with the fixtures. It's hard to think of any. I mean, you got Pedro, but Brighton have got bad fixtures coming up in a couple of weeks.
It's just the two, isn't it? It's kind of like the two fixtures for Brighton now. And then you almost need like an exit plan potentially.
Yeah, so I'd be avoiding on Wildcard.
So let's go to Chelsea, because I think a lot of people are interested on your opinion of Chelsea, of course. I know you said you might go with Palmer on the wildcard as opposed to Madueke, who was in your team pre-wildcard. There's a lot of talk about Nicholas Jackson as well at the moment. I know he's just extended and he's got like a 9 or 10 year contract at this stage after the freaking extension. But they do seem to be putting the faith in the boy. And he's also another player I feel gets unfairly criticized. I think when he was signed for Chelsea, right, he was a young striker who'd barely played any first team professional football yet in his career, apart from like maybe a dozen games. And he was never meant to come in and be the guy who drags you to top 4 or wins the league on day one. He was always meant to have like maybe another experienced striker that he could like learn from and be mentored by, and eventually, and that pressure to be that guy for you from day one. To me, that just seems crazy. Like that, like to be judged by those standards at that age, I think that's totally unfair.
He just came into a team full of kids, didn't he? And he had to go straight into the first team. And he misses a lot of chances, but he does get a lot of chances. I mean, he gets an awful lot. And he will improve, I think. You know, he's still doing all right this season, hasn't he? You know, he's got 18 points already. So he's averaging 6 points a game. And they played Man City. So did they play Man City? I think they did, didn't they?
Yeah,
they lost 2-0 in the first game. So he's got most of those points in the next 2. So I'm thinking of putting Jackson in. If I've got the money, he'll be coming in. You know, I might have Isaac, Jackson and Calvert-Lewin might be my front 3, I think.
I like that. I like that. Jackson, I was going to ask you about, because I just feel like so I always look for opportunities, right? Like players that maybe people will avoid even if they return a few weeks in a row because of previous trauma. And like some reason Darwin always gets brought back in despite years of trauma, and yet people aren't willing to give the same mindset to Jackson. So I feel like surely like that's a good thing, because in FPL, right, these days, you said it yourself, soon as a player returns points, even if they're a differential, and that you get that exciting buzz and that amazing feeling that you mentioned, really, are they gonna give you differential points value wise more than 2-3 weeks of returning in a row? Probably by then it's like most people have them, right? Especially if they're at a good
price. Yeah.
Whereas with someone like Jackson, I feel like he could go under the radar in the sense that even if he was to get points every week for like a month, people will still avoid him because of their preconceptions. And I don't know if I'm crazy to makes it more attractive for me.
You can see that now. I mean, he's got 18 points, but nobody's really bringing him in, are they?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm going to probably, but most people aren't. It's just continue to be ignored, and they've still got good fixtures. They've got no. They have got Europe, but he's not going to be playing. He's not going to be playing in those Conference League games. So, you know, those games they've got in their Conference League are easier than their qualifying game. You know, they played Servette, whoever it was, to qualify, who are a better team than most of the teams that they're now playing. So they're going to be putting out a reserve team pretty much every week. So people are saying that they're avoiding Chelsea because they're very difficult to predict who's going to start. But I don't think it's the case, not any more than any other teams. I mean, you're pretty much going to get Palmer's going to be in the middle, I'd say. Madueke will be on the right. Now, most of the time, you're going to have Neto on the left. You know, what's his face? And Nkunku might get the odd game. I think Felix will be playing all the European games because he's eligible now. He wasn't before for the other 2-legged one they just had. So he'll be coming on for Palmer after about so many minutes, or coming on for someone else. And Jackson will probably play most games. I think Nkunku's going to be playing most of the European games. I mean, he's looked awful, hasn't he, Nkunku?
It's quite sad. Yeah, when he joined, I honestly, I had him in Game Week 1, of course. And I think part of it was, I remember his days in the UCL fantasy for Leipzig, and he was a captaincy material every week. So it's a shock seeing it.
He doesn't fit in. I mean, Maresca likes proper wide wingers, and Nkunku's not one of them. So he's not going to start on the left very often. He's number 10, but so is Palmer, really, isn't it? Palmer's going to be there. So he's not going to be a striker. He's not really a very good striker. I mean, they've tried him, but he's not the best. So unless Palmer's injured or something like that, then I can't see him getting a run of games.
Is it a system thing then? Because there was some games last season, right, where he did come on, he had cameos, and he still wasn't playing many minutes. But there was occasion moments where I saw like that brilliance, like that really fancy, tight, close footwork, and like I didn't feel anyone else in the team could do what he was doing. Like he would be in the box with like 3 defenders on top of him, and he'd still somehow get off and get the pass to the person to shoot or get the shot off. But it just didn't quite materialize. Like it was all kind of what's the saying, all fart and no poo. Like, but there was just those moments of glimpses of, oh my God, like this is the Nkunku I remember. And it just feels like now there's a new manager, there's a different system, and he just doesn't fit into it, which is quite sad.
If Palmer wasn't around, he might. But with Palmer there, I mean, it's all about Palmer, isn't it, really, that team? And they've got all those European games, so he's going to be playing in those, isn't he?
I think Palmer's not even registered for the European squad. So yeah,
no, he's not even registered, exactly. So he's not going to play any of them. So
it couldn't get any better. So we've got some questions actually in the Q&A about do you prefer Palmer or Saka?
I'll just quickly talk about defence.
Yeah, let's talk about Chelsea defence. I'll timestamp it.
Colwell's pretty nailed, I think.
4.5.
4.5. I don't think Cucurella's worth 5 million.
Mm-hmm.
Gusto was really good last season, but he's not looking as good in this new system. So he used to be where Madueke is now. Gusto would have been last season, up there. But I think Colwell, if you must have a Chelsea defender, and it looks like they're settled on Sanchez in goal now.
Would you want a Chelsea defender? I guess is my question.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure I would. I'm not planning on getting one.
Because people said like if Sanchez nails down the spot, he's the best 4.5 million defender, etc. Or goalkeeper. I just don't think I want to go anywhere near the Chelsea defense. What about Reece James? I hear there's talks that he might be returning to fitness while Gusto's out soon. Is he gonna one last rodeo?
I think even if he does, he's not going to be playing in the same position as he was. So he's not going to be as productive, I think.
Fair enough. So the top 3, would you say the ones who've got the points so far, and they've got significantly more points than the rest of the Chelsea boys?
They're the only 3. They're the only 3 to consider for FPL, I think.
Unless something like materially changes, right? Like if Palmer was injured and then Nkunku suddenly playing every week as a 10, maybe
I'd change the order. I think Palmer's the one you want, isn't he? Then Jackson, then Madueke.
I think I agree. I think Jackson I really like as well. I think Jackson, I'm warming up on him thanks to what you've said. So in terms of then just predicted points on Chelsea real quick, this is the next 8 game weeks from game week 4 to game week 11, and it has them in the exact order, right? So
is this FPL review? Is it one of those?
No, this is from Hub's predicted points, but because I have me, I have membership to like every possible tool out there. I just love data, and then I ignore it basically because I like to do stupid transfers based on gut feeling and finger in the air. But I still like to see the data. So yeah, Palmer's obviously predicted the most points, like 51 points in that period. Jackson 40 points, Madueke 34 points, and then it kind of really quickly drops. It like goes down to like Enzo. Like I ain't looking to buy him. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think at this stage it is really just the top 3. Madueke is a bit hit and miss, unless you're hotter on his expected minutes than most
I must say I'm a bit biased when it comes to Chelsea. I mean, part of my reason for wildcarding was just because I wanted to get Palmer in. So, but I am biased. I mean, I think we had before the season that Newcastle fans telling everyone that Hall was going to play and all this. So you can't. I think you should take with a pinch of salt what supporters of a club have to say, because they do tend to be biased. So if you get Madwake in and he's no good, don't blame me, peeps, because it's not my fault.
You've given the disclaimer.
You picked him. Take your own.
I love that.
But I like him. But I'm going to be annoyed, actually, because I know I'm not going to have him on my wild card because I've got Palmer. And I can see him scoring again this week. And my old team's going to outscore my new team, and it's going to wipe me up no end.
That's always a killer on wildcard, isn't it? So much stress.
They're very much a double-edged sword, aren't they, wildcards? They really are. People say you don't need to use it, you're wasting it. But often you will, even if you do need it, you can end up like totally killing your season, can't you? They're very, very much a double-edged sword. So in a way,
do you remember the season when people sold Salah after many blanks, wildcarded him out, and he got like 21 points or something? It's like you hold on for all the blanks, and then the week you finally wildcard, the entire old team outscores, as you say, outscores the new. It's just like a kick in the face. It's really. How do you stay motivated in that scenario? Because it must happen.
It's like Fernandez owners, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they're still waiting. They're telling me, like Simon said yesterday on the Expected Grass episode, obviously, from an analytics point of view, he's everything you want, right? Like 90 minutes playing as the 10, like creative hub of United, penalties, like on paper, like even his underlying numbers, you see what he did for Portugal, you're like, holy shit, goal and assist. And then it just you come back to Man United and you're like, everyone's telling me like, oh, he's a season hold. Whereas I just really didn't want to have him. Like, I remember the start of the season, I was like, I just can't do it. Like it just feels like he makes sense on paper.
Yeah.
I just don't rate the way Man United play football. And I don't know if that's bias, but I really think Ten Hag does not know what he is doing or how to get the best out of his team.
I'm actually thinking of buying him. I'm actually thinking of getting him on my wild card, to be honest.
You're becoming more analytics by the day since this Concert Dunk Winks video.
I didn't want him at the start of the season because I'm quite price conscious, and I knew that this might happen, what's happened. And I know from last year how hard he is to get rid of once you own him, because he always looks like he's going to get points. Yeah. And he's so hard to take out because he is going to get points, isn't he, at some stage? I've just got a feeling it's this week. So I am quite tempted to bring him in. But I want to see another price fall first before I do bring him in. I don't want to. I won't bring him in if he's like minus 90%. And so that's my problem with Isaac too. If he's at like minus 98% and losing owners, it pretty much rules me out of bringing him in. That's me. That's crazy.
You have to always wait, right? You have to wait, and then when the price drop happens, now you buy them at like the discount aisle in the supermarket.
That's right, because Fernandez, he's definition of a trap, isn't he? In a way, I watched Andy FPL stream before the start of the season. He's like, "Well, shall I get Fernandez? Shall I not get Fernandez?" Because you know what he's like. He can just keep blanking.
Because once you have him, you just never want to sell because he always looks good. He always looks like he's going to return. And for some reason, you get unlucky or lucky, right?
But he should have had a lot of points. I mean, non-owners were quite lucky. Gameweek 1, I mean, how he missed those chances, that's unbelievable.
So actually going back to this, so Man United, fourth highest for expected goal involvement, and Bruno's got the most out of the entire team.
And they do. Garnacho actually is a good pick too, isn't he? Really, I think.
I really like Garnacho. If he's going to 6.5, yeah.
If he's going to play, that Diallo putting me off a bit because he's looking good as well, isn't he? But you can't really pick him because you don't know if he's going to play. Is Garnacho going to play all the time? I don't know. If he is,
you would hope so.
A better pick. He's probably a better pick than Fernandez, isn't he? When you look at that chart, there's not much between them. and he's so
But at
much
2
cheaper.
million, yeah, 2 million cheaper at least, right?
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly go to some Q&A as well. Before that, I just want to put up FPL Frazzled's comment that Madueke is great cover if you can't get to Palmer, but rotation risk compared to Jackson as the Cole alternative. Who
there is a bit. I mean, we don't know 100%, do we, that Palmer's always going to be in the middle. I mean, he could play some games on the right, and maybe Nkunku will get a game in the middle, or Felix could get a game in the middle and Palmer on the right. So we don't know. I mean, he's a pretty strict manager, I think, Maresca, isn't he? So Madueke's a bit of a character. So, I mean, he could easily fall foul of a manager at some stage. And
imagine just one bad incident. The old Chesney and Jack Wilshere smoking cigarettes in the shower after a game and Wenger finding them. I can imagine certain players are more prone to do the kind of shit that the disciplinary manager is not happy about.
Yeah. And I think Maresca's like a mini Pep, I think. He'd be looking for a way to impose his discipline on somebody. So, yeah, so you can never tell with Palmer because he does play those two positions, doesn't he? So the good thing with Palmer is he's always going to be playing. So it makes him so much better than any of the other assets, I think. Although he is quite expensive, isn't he?
I was going to buy him. My plan was this week originally to do Isaac to Pedro to fund Gordon to Palmer. And that was kind of my plan for the last few weeks going into it. And then I don't know if I'm being delusional, but I kind of saw the next 2 Chelsea games were away. And I thought the next one, Bournemouth, maybe isn't as easy as it seems.
No.
And then I was like, do I want 2 away fixtures? Do I wait a little bit more? Maybe I buy Palmer in game week 6. So now I'm like, I've kind of gone against it. I've decided actually
it probably is more sensible to wait.
You would say so. But I guess if you're on wildcard, though, you don't want to book in that transfer, right? That's the thing.
No, if you're on wildcard, you get him on your wildcard, I think. But otherwise, you're quite happy to wait, aren't you, really? I mean,
like I'll wait.
If you've got Saka, if you've got a lot of people are selling Saka and buying Palmer, aren't they? People not on wildcard, just Saka's got 2 tough fixtures. Rice and Odegaard out's going to make a big difference, don't you think?
We're going to talk. That's the first question in the Q&A, so let's save that one.
Yeah, so
we'll talk about that. We'll talk about. Let's say thank you to all the members, and then we'll go straight into the impact on Arsenal, I guess, of these injuries and suspensions. I think that's a good thing to go to. So, thank you to all the key holders, as they're now called, no longer haulers, as we become locked in FPL, and the 4 seasons of Net That Haul is behind us. And thank you everyone for all the years of sticking with us. So our master key holders on YouTube are Greenback Golf, Gary Horwood, David Harrison, Nahal, Colm, Line. Oh God, I've made it so small I can't see. Apologies. Let me make that bigger. Yeah, Lion Pedersen, FPL Sparta, and Tiggy Taylor. Our key holders: Podner, Kevin Rose, Blonde, FPL Teacher, Tom, Lindsay O, Dom, Claire, Tursks, Catherine A, Harry Not Kane, Benjamin Lockwood, FPL Discomfort, Grady, Jasker Singh, FPL Eric, BW Splitter, and the FPL Juice Show. Last but not least, our Patreon key holders: Elron, FPL California, Mike Burke, Draft Alchemy, and Dr. Green Thumb. Thank you all for supporting the channel. There's a lot of new master key holder members who are not in the Discord. So please DM me on Twitter if you've not figured out how to join. But if you're a member on Patreon or YouTube, you simply just need to go to the profile settings in Discord and log in with the same Google account that you use for your YouTube membership. And it will drop you into the Locked In FPL Discord server automatically. With that in mind, if you've enjoyed today's show, we want to firstly thank Nick. I'll be putting links to his profile, Triggerlips, as he's otherwise known, on Twitter and X. Please do go and follow him. Also check out his channel, where he told me he wasn't going to make content this season and then made the infamous Dunk Console Winks video. So it's good that you're back. Do you plan to do it every week, Nick, or was it just one time?
Yeah, possibly. Depends what mood I'm in. I don't like to have to force myself to do FPL content. Something gets my interest when I go and do one. I haven't done one this week because I was on your show and I thought, I'll just come on there. I won't do my own one this week, especially when I'm on a wild card. I don't really like doing the videos where you serious FPL type stuff, but I don't really give out advice too much, that type of thing. I prefer if something happens on Twitter, go on, make a pod about it, sort of do a pod on what's happening in the community type thing is more the ones I enjoy doing, really. So it'll be whenever, and I just put a link up on Twitter and people can go. They're usually nice and short, aren't they? And
they're sweet. Yeah, they're so good. They're just like candid, and it's like when you have something on your mind, you just want to get off your chest. I really like the sofa that you're on. I think there's a comment in the chat actually that I starred about this. So let me quickly find that. So BW Splitter said, we need to normalize creating content from a lounging position. Nick is so relaxed and I'm here for it. Yeah, you have plans.
No one lounges more than me. I'm normally horizontal on this thing, and laptop literally on my lap, and yeah.
You know what? Actually, I'm gonna play your video before the Q&A.
Well, I'm off to play golf after this, so I've got a nice relaxing day ahead.
Lovely stuff. Let me play this video for the guys in the chat, and then we'll do like 10 minutes of Q&A, and we'll let you get out of here. So
it's no rush. I'm quite happy to.
Nice one. Well, I guess as long as the questions are there, guys, Nick will be here, right? So just keep sending questions. So guys, this video is from a few seasons ago. It was Nick's first ever appearance on the back then Net That Hall. And he came on to the Compass show, as we called it, with me and Hibbo. And it was a live FPL match that evening. And there was a guy who scored, who the masses were buying every week just because he scored the week before. And please just watch like the first minute or so of this video. It's a 3-minute video, so I won't play the whole thing, but I'll play like the first minute or so. I just want you guys to see like what FPL does to us, and seeing Nick like that, like it just reminds me of myself when like I'm annoyed at FPL. And just look at Hibbo and the way he's crying, and look at Nick and the way he's drinking his water with pure psychopathic rage. I hope you guys in the chat, if you've not seen this before, this is one of my favorite moments of the last 5 seasons. So check this out for the next minute, and then we'll come to the Q&A. And he's getting his goals and assists. Oh, 3-1. Hold up. Don't know
this is getting fucking annoying. I think
it's the Corey.
Again, no, Gray scored. So I've got him in Sky. Okay. Oh no, that's going to damage my FPL rank though. You're right. Whatever happens, it's so sad when our FPL is more important than fan team. That's devastating.
Next on top.
LiveFPL.net is going to crash. Let's have a look. Oh wow, the average and the safety score have gone way up.
Having DCL out and then having that prick Gray score, it's just like it's ruined my fucking day, though. You know, you get
it's ruined my day too, to be fair.
All 10 midfielders blank, don't they? And you just know that fucking Gray's going to come along and fuck up your game week.
On a Monday night.
Except all the pricks on Twitter who've all got him. That's only people you were. 99% of people posting on Twitter tonight will have him.
All the wildcarders.
All the rest will have turned off.
Or Gameweek 4, is it? Yeah, all the Gameweek 4 wildcarders have him.
All the ones that just got Gray because everyone else was, and like he got a goal a week before. You know, the depth of their analysis, and it's rough. And they only got him because it's the only one they could afford to get because they were getting Ronaldo. You know.
Do you know who the next one is though? Gallagher. So I always say, if you look at the transfers. Gameweek 4 wildcard. Wow, this is
what I just saw that. I was like thinking, shit, this is a bit of deja vu going on. So I mentioned DCL in that as well, didn't I? DCL was out apparently, and it was a Gameweek 4 wildcard. And here we are, Gameweek 4. I'm talking about bringing DCL in. So I don't know where that prick Gray is now. Do you?
I think he's gone to like Saudi.
Is he still playing?
I don't know where he's gone, but that was incredible because it was a Monday night, and I remember, like, I think we both had green arrows, right?
Yeah.
Having a good game and scored just a straight red arrow instantly.
That's the trouble with those Monday night games, isn't it? It was like Salah last week.
Yeah, like, absolutely. Really on the last game,
week, you just can't count your chickens, can you?
So good.
I think I'd enjoy FPL. I'd enjoy FPL a lot more if I just turned off the TV at the weekend and just watch the highlights. I think. I was thinking what you were saying earlier about people, how you enjoy FPL. I think the best way is to just concentrate on your work mini league, isn't it? Really, it's the ones at work that I work with. I enjoy FPL a lot more than I do. I think just talking about the mini league and ribbing each other after the game week. for us, it's like a complete nightmare, isn't it? You get people like that bloody Gray, and every week someone comes along and ruins your bloody game week.
Every week without fail, man. So Elron Cupboard says you should rock that shirt, chain, and chest hair combo again. Bet Bateman says Nick furious in his England cricket team hat.
I've
Lol.
still got the same hat on. It's all very worrying. This whole deja vu thing coming up. I've got the same bloody hat on. Bringing DCL in on a Gameweek 4 wildcard, and Jesus,
It's all going to come crashing down, Nick. I think you might get triggered into making a video.
Haaland now. I've been looking at Salah and Haaland combos. I might go over Salah Haaland, but the trouble is I want Salah, Haaland, and Palmer, and but I just can't squeeze them in. I might be able to if I put Rodgers in as a fourth.
As a fourth with another cheap fifth, and then
having
maybe you have
as
cheap
well.
defenders, right?
If I've got Dunk, Conser, Winks, and Rodgers. But like I said, I'm worried about the Champions League, but I think Rodgers is a pretty fit-looking character, isn't he?
He looks good to me.
I don't think he's the sort of player that's going to need to be rested. Do you know what I mean? I think he'd be able to cope with playing 2 games a week. I mean, he's young, isn't he? And
I think,
like you said, yeah, should still play both games, I think.
But I think it's the defense, right? So can you go back to the screenshot from your Gameweek 1 team in 2014? It's like if you can get comfortable with a 4.5 million and 4 million defense, I do think maybe there's a world you can have.
Yeah, I'm worried about
Holland.
Maybe you can go without Trent, but he looks so. I mean, that's the way. That's the sacrifice I have to make if I want that team, is to get rid of Trent.
And it's tough, right? Because he looked like he's ready to explode.
Looks so good. And when I'm playing FPL now, I've decided one of the reasons I don't want Haaland is I want to enjoy my weekends watching the players. You know, I don't like watching Chelsea without Palmer. It actually ruins my enjoyment of watching Chelsea not having Palmer in my team. And I want to enjoy my FPL. So even though it might not be optimal, I want to have Palmer. I want to have Salah. I don't like City anyway.
I'm with you, Nick. I'm with you.
City.
I want players I want to enjoy watching. I'll watch games I've never watched in my life or would never watch if I didn't have an asset in that game.
Yeah, I don't want to have to watch. Sorry, Forest supporters, but I don't want to have to watch Forest.
Just Morgan Gibbs White. Is that why you wildcarded?
It was bloody painful. Yeah, exactly. It was painful watching them. I know he got a goal the other week, but I want to watch blooming Liverpool having Salah and Trent. I want to watch Chelsea having Palmer. I want to watch Arsenal having good Arsenal players. I don't want to have to blooming watch Nottingham Forest or all these teams, and it's painful.
You don't want to watch Ipswich Town for Ben Johnson.
Although it has been quite nice being able to watch City with Haaland, to be honest. But someone's got to go, and I'm thinking it's going to be Haaland. Because I think in a few weeks too, there's going to be alternatives to Haaland in that City team. Once what's his face comes back, Foden. Yeah, Foden comes back, or even De Bruyne. Is an option. I think that's being slightly ignored, isn't he, De Bruyne?
He's looked very good. I think there's a case.
Maybe I should be getting De Bruyne instead of Palmer, even, or but. Like I said, I want to have players that I like watching, and having Palmer is I just don't enjoy watching Chelsea so much when I haven't got Palmer in my team. So
I'm interested in that though, because let's say, for example, I've sold Saka this week and I intend on getting him back in Gameweek 6, but I actually don't mind when Arsenal keep clean sheets and they're defensive effective ownerships 200%. I don't care about the red arrow because I'm glad Arsenal won. So it's interesting because you have a slightly different take to me, where if Palmer got a hat trick, it kind of actually ruins watching your team for you. Whereas for me, I'd be like, oh, okay, FPL's fucked, but at least Saka got a hat trick and Arsenal won. It's funny. We're both view it slightly differently, don't we?
It's not other people having him that annoys me. It's just the fact I haven't got him. I can't celebrate in quite the same way as I would if I had him in my team. So
would you ever root against a clean sheet? So have you ever like gone into a game where you're thinking, you know what, like like you're winning, let's say 3-0, and then you're like, oh, I don't have any Chelsea defenders and they got high ownership. Fuck it, we need to concede a goal.
Oh, yeah, I don't care about them keeping a clean sheet or not.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Obviously don't want them not to win, but I don't care if they keep a clean sheet. If they win 4-1, I'm happier than if they win 4-0. If they haven't got any.
No, I
Chelsea
asked because there was an incident on Twitter recently where someone was like celebrating Salah destroying their team, and people were like, "Wait, don't you support the team that just got spanked? Like, what the hell?" And they were like,
Yeah,
"FPL
I
over
wouldn't
my
go
team."
that far.
Okay, you wouldn't go that far. Fair enough. Let's go to quickly the Discord question before this Twitter question, and then I've got 9 starred questions from the YouTube. So Dom Black Dragon on Discord asked, I'll timestamp this 1 hour 25. Dom asked, game week 6 to 19, which is the best set and forget between Saka and Palmer? Is there a hop on and hop off in between them?
Well, I don't have the fixtures in front of me.
Yeah, I don't have the fixtures that far ahead, but I'm going to just open them up real quick in the background, and maybe I'll put it on the share
It's
screen.
interesting. I'd say probably Saka, I'd say. From a pure FPL perspective. Oh, I don't know, though. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to put them up for you on screen. I'm going to
It's
just
slightly more expensive, Palmer, isn't he? But they're both on penalties.
Here we go. Let's try this. Okay, so I might need to zoom in or something, but let's get. Oh, I've zoomed in on the wrong place.
You'd think over that long time frame, we're going to have pretty equal sort of fixtures, aren't they?
You'd say so, but Chelsea's, I guess, a similar number of goals.
What week are we talking? 6 to 19?
Yeah, I've put 6 to 19. Let me just switch it to attack. It has Arsenal top for attack for that period. It has Chelsea like halfway down, but the goals for
they're away at Liverpool, away at Man United. They got Arsenal.
Tottenham away is not.
They're not that bad.
hard.
Chelsea's fixtures though. They're
not that bad. Well, Arsenal's bad fixtures here though. There's like Bournemouth away, Newcastle away, Chelsea away. I can see why. Like Arsenal does have like very good home fixtures apart from maybe.
To be honest, I'd say you want both of them.
Man City, interestingly, are below Chelsea in that period, but there's nothing really in it. That's the other reason I don't like this kind of stuff, right? Because here Chelsea are going to get 22.9 goals and Arsenal are going to get 23.7.
Yeah, there's nothing in it. I mean,
there's
it's nothing just a guess anyway, isn't it?
Pure guesswork, and that will change. Yeah, I wouldn't look beyond, I'd say 3 to 6 week horizon. When I buy players, I normally buy them with a view to start them for like 4 to 6 weeks. That's kind of why I'm buying them. And if they blank, I try to remind myself has anything changed in the reasoning why I bought them? Because if nothing's changed, I'm just going to keep playing them until I get to the point that I knew I was going to, because I'm a fixtures manager. So I don't want to sell someone after having made a decision that this is the period I want them for, just because they've blanked, if that makes sense. But let's go to this question, because this is an interesting one as well.
Haaland's insane though, isn't it? We don't know how good Haaland is this year though, do we? I mean,
yeah,
he could genuinely have gone up to a level that we've never seen.
It's scary to think, isn't it?
It is scary to think. I mean, I'm probably not going to have him on more, but even having him hasn't really done me any much good. Do you know what I mean? People without him are doing just as well.
But that's nice, right? Because it means there are differences in the teams at least.
And it means that he has to kind of be on that level just to be worth it. So if he does dip, then not having him is going to be the play, isn't it? I mean, can he sustain that level of performance? You'd think not, but
I think not. But like, he looks like, I don't know, there's like a new system at City. If they stick to this system, like he looks like maybe he's fitter or in better shape than last year or something.
Yeah,
like, he's had the whole summer off, right? Like something's mentally different about him for sure. It feels like that.
But I think once Foden comes back, that might impact on Haaland's points, I think.
Let's keep
and there's Champions League as well. Champions League coming up. So he didn't look that great for Norway, though, did he? So
yeah, I've
like
been wondering
it's
about
the way
that.
City are set up.
get the best out of him, right? Let's take this question from Kanji. I'll put it at 1 hour 29. We'll start with the Twitter one, and then I've got like another 5 or 6 comments just to read out from the live chat tonight. So Kanji asks about like the Arsenal impact of Odegaard's injury, missing Leicester, Southampton. It looks like he's going to miss like until after the next international break, but let's wait and see. Maybe 4 Premier League games, 3 cup games. He says, would you still trust Arsenal to score 3 or 4 goals in those games? Havertz maybe moved into midfield. Jesus or Trossard maybe getting minutes as striker. So I agree. I think Jesus or Trossard will get minutes as striker. You may see Sterling start a game at some point from left wing. Some people have him as striker this week. I don't think so. I think Arsenal personally will play a double pivot of Partey and Jorginho in the North London derby, with Havertz filling in the Odegaard role, playing as like a 10 or a number 8 that floats into 10. And I think the front 3 will be Saka, Jesus, and Martinelli, personally. You could say it might be Saka, Trossard, and Martinelli if Jesus isn't ready, but it sounds like he's fit for the North London derby, Jesus. So I just don't see why he wouldn't start striker.
I can't see Sterling starting.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be thrown in like that, but some people are maybe optimistic. I think he's going to take time and maybe take minutes off others.
He didn't even play in any of Chelsea's games, I think, pre-season or anything. So
he's got to be built up. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But because my thing is, right, a lot of people have been telling me like Havertz, like his appeal goes if he's playing in midfield. And, you know, his numbers last season, it took him 20 games to score for Arsenal. But then when you look at his numbers as a striker in 2024 onwards, it's like top 5 in Europe in every league. And it's insane numbers.
Maybe I'm underestimating him.
I think they are, right? So do you know why I say that? Because I think people forget that when he maybe was playing at left centre mid, he was playing with Eddie and Nketiah as striker, not Gabriel Jesus. And Jesus drops deep a lot. And I think he's going to want to, like, Havertz is going to push up into that position anyway. So I think he's still going to, when we have the ball, he's going to still basically be playing striker and get a few shots off a game. It's just out of possession. He will obviously potentially be there doing a lot of defensive work. But I don't personally think him playing from midfield, if he does for a few games because of Odegaard's injury, is the worst thing. And I don't think Arsenal are going to stop scoring goals because of this. I think something might change. The system something exciting might happen. People are talking about like the youngster Ethan Nwaneri coming in at 17 to replace Odegaard, like all kinds of weird ideas. People talk about Calafiori or Timber playing in a pivot next to Partey, the other one playing a left back. There's all kinds of wild speculation. I would just wait and see. And personally, I don't think this dampens the appeal of Havertz for me at all. At all. Like, I'm not concerned in any way. I don't know. You obviously know him from his time with you guys. I do think he's improved a lot and gained confidence since, but I don't know if you have a different view.
I think it will impact him for the next game or two. With Rice missing as well, I think it is going to impact the team.
I think with Rice missing next game too, but they're talking about Southampton and Leicester in 4 weeks' time. Like Rice will be back.
I haven't even looked at Havertz, to be honest with you, on my wildcard, but I probably should do. I mean, he's going to be a very good option. But for people that are going without Haaland and have got space for like 2 or 3 decent price strikers, I think the likes of Havertz, if he does do well, I'm hoping he does do well, because he's going to be, he's going to be a really good player to bring in, isn't he? And people were, a lot at the moment, people have got that structure where they've got Haaland and they've got a Pedro or somebody like that in the team. And it's going to be difficult for them to fit in the likes of Havertz. So if he does do well, I'm hoping he does, because he's a nice route into that Arsenal side, isn't he?
I honestly, I've been saying all season, like, I want double attack. I don't want double defense. And I want Havertz and Saka. Like, those are the two I want.
I can see why people aren't really interested, because he was a midfielder last year, wasn't he? So it kind of puts people off. Because let's be honest, we didn't even want him last year. I think Az on one of his shows mentioned bringing Havertz in, and he got laughed at, by my.
He got laughed at when he captained Bruno Guimaraes for a brace too, right?
But then he turned out to be a really good pick in the end, didn't he?
Yeah, I think you're right. In the immediate future, maybe, okay, there will be
I think
negative impact. Yeah, you are right. But I just think it's not as bad as people think.
I think Saka's going to be, Tottenham, they'll find a way to score against Tottenham, won't they?
I'm seeing Tottenham fans predicting a 3-1 loss despite all these injuries. So, like, I don't know,
really?
like, yeah, so I
Yeah,
don't know, man. Like,
they're not keen on their own defence, are they?
I think it will be an exciting game. Like the last few years, the North London derby has been insane. Like it's so much fun. I always feel so sick leading up to it. It's the one game that I don't look forward to in a way because you're just on edge. It's like you know that you have this group of people waiting with a knife in your back. It's like social media will be. I'm like, I should log out of Twitter for a week if we lose. Like, it's that bad. But
I'm playing Porro. I'm playing, and
I'm playing Porro. I don't have a choice, man. I got
yeah.
Porro on concert.
It's for the attacking returns, isn't it? Porro. I mean, he looks like scoring all the time, and I think I will get Saka on my wild card. There's no point not getting him and then bringing him in game week 6. You know, if you're going to get him, you just get him. I think because it's not that bad a fixture, is it? Away at Tottenham.
I think that's the good fixture. If in reality,
so do I.
like,
Yeah.
We saw the numbers right from.
I mean, you know, he's going to put in 150% against Tottenham, isn't he? So
yeah, like we've seen here 1.8 projected goals. Like, okay, like maybe it's not like as high as some of the other teams this week, like City and Liverpool.
I mean, who else do you get? But
I guess this is actually a good comment because Darnish says, "Should I do Saka to Palmer?" And like looking at this on paper, like I would argue the Bournemouth away is not that great personally. You obviously might disagree, but
there's not much difference when you look at their predicted goals, is there?
It's that even, right? Like it's looking at a 2-1 win for Chelsea, 2-1 win for Arsenal. That's kind of what it's projecting. Yeah, I don't think I would do that this week personally. I was gonna do Gordon to Palmer, and I actually did Saka to Salah instead because I just wanted to do home fixtures.
People focus too much on the short term, I think, don't they?
I think Saka, I said it at the start of the season, and that's why I'm kind of like pissed that I sold him this week. I don't know why I did that. I was panicking about prices.
I've taken him out too, which is annoying. That's why he needs to drop in price. Otherwise, I have to bring him back for
more than
more than I took him out.
No, he will drop before the end of your wildcard window, I think. But I just like when I looked at the season, right? So my view, and I stand by this, is that at the end of this season, Saka won't be very different from Haaland and Salah's final points tally. I think he'll be there in the top 3 points returns. He costs 2.5 million less than Salah, 5 million less than Haaland. I just don't see a world in which he isn't going to be there in those top point scorers, personally.
I agree. I actually looked at
it feels like a bargain.
Left Salah out. Maybe Salah will score more than him, but I think Saka, you just put him in. He's a season keeper. He's like the definition of a season keeper, I think. Saka, isn't he?
I honestly think he is, which is why now, if I hear the concert injury is really bad, and I'm then looking at my double move, I'm like, you know what? I'm doubting what I did now. Because what I've done is just for 2 weeks, I've almost locked myself into game week 6 wildcard because I've basically taken players who have 2 away games in Arsenal and Newcastle assets and replaced them both with 2 players who have 2 good home games. So I've kind of got very short term, try to get the most I can, then wildcard into the team I want. But if there's a few more injuries come deadline, I might.
Fair enough if you're wildcarding in a couple of weeks. If you know you're going to wildcard, then you do think short term, don't you? So everyone's focusing on this game week 6 wildcard, aren't they? Like everyone.
I didn't want to force I wanted to go as long as I could without, but then I've kind of forced my own hand this by not rolling my transfers and making these rash short-term moves. Darnish says Palmer rested. Should we take that into account? I think
I don't think he's injured or anything, is he? There was a slight chat. He pulled out, and I think he's been in training. So
like he's back in full training. He's back in full training.
I've got to disappear to the loo for a sec. I'll be back in a.
Yeah, go for it. I'm going to answer. There's a couple of questions before we come back.
Oh.
So Ignatius asks, if not going Salah, who would you captain in game week 5? So let me just have a real quick look, buddy, at the game week 5 fixture. So we have. Okay, cool. So you don't have Salah. I would personally, I have Jota as a non-Salah owner. I don't know if you have that, Ignatius. Let me know. Alternatively, Palmer away at West Ham. Jota at home to Bournemouth. Any Spurs players? I don't know if you fancy a Heung-min Son purchase. Not for me. Man United, Bruno away at Palace, not ideal. It
Oh,
sounds a bit. Yeah, what do you think about this one? Game week 5's matchups don't look great, and Ignatius wants to know if they didn't have Salah, who would you captain? I'll put the game week 5 fixtures on the screen so you can see.
Well, I've looked at a wild card without Salah and without Haaland, and my main problem with it is trying to find someone to captain. And what's wrong with? Oh, he doesn't have Salah, does he? So
yeah. So they're just saying like if I don't, like I was saying to them that I would say like maybe you have Jota, maybe you have Palmer, maybe you even go for like Brighton.
There's nobody, is there?
There's Brighton. If you're confident someone's going to start,
I think you captain Haaland, don't you?
Yeah, I guess at home. If it was away, that would be different. I think if you don't have Salah, I assume you have Haaland. I think you can captain Haaland in any.
Oh, Palmer maybe. No, I think Haaland, sensible one probably. Oh, hang on, Villa.
But again, like, is Watkins like someone that he's got, or is he going to have it? You're not going to captain Rodgers.
And he's got the Champions League. We just don't know, do we? I can see Emery's going to take the Champions League very seriously, isn't he? He's a very European focused manager.
You know what's funny? I've just realized
he does well in Europe. I think his teams have won the Europa League.
Yeah, that is something he loves to do, isn't it? So we've got to be careful with what he might do with them in that, might prioritize it at some point.
Even Rodgers is a tiny bit of a worry, but I think he should be all right, I think. So if you had another Liverpool player,
would you captain Trent?
Yeah, Captain Trent.
I would captain Trent.
Oh, I don't know though. They've got Europe as well.
It's all very scary with these extra European ties.
But Trent's going to get a rest at some point for Bradley, because Bradley, I think the manager quite likes Bradley. So Liverpool have got a really tough Champions League fixtures, haven't they?
Yeah, their group is not looking that great.
And they bought that winger, Chiesa or whatever his name is. So even Salah's minutes are going to be managed a bit, I think.
Yeah, no, I think Chiesa's going to come in.
This is what I mean. I honestly do think we're underestimating how the impact of Champions League. And that's why I like Palmer. He's not even registered for Europe. And even the likes of DCL and these players, I'm trying to find players that aren't in teams that are in Europe. Brighton obviously looking good, but then their fixtures are rubbish. But I'm a bit wary. I think City are the best to cope with Europe, aren't they? I mean, you can't see Haaland being rested anywhere.
No, I can't. Yeah, I think they obviously with Alvarez gone as well. Like I just
this is the trouble with going about Haaland. He's such a reliable captain.
So you reckon you're closer to going with neither Haaland or Salah than you are for going with one of them at this stage, or is it still?
No. I won't be going without both of them.
Okay.
Because of the captaincy, like you showed in game week 5, there's like weeks where you can't rely on anybody else apart from Salah and Haaland, I think.
They're like you could captain them any week, like in reality, right? Like even if it was the worst.
Yeah, you're happy captaining either of them, but others you're not, are you? So it's risky. I mean, you can take a chance on Palmer, but it is a risk, isn't it?
It is. What do you think about this last question from FPL Dad? And we'll let you get to your. Is it golf you're going to go play? You said.
Yeah, there's no rush.
So Pedro or Welbeck?
Honestly, if you're just on a short-term pick, I think Welbeck.
If you're going to get rid of him soon, like for the next 2 fixtures.
Pedro's just come back from Brazil, so it will make a bit of difference probably to his minutes. Whereas Welbeck would have been training with the team, I expect. So, why not? Welbeck scored, he's more attacking than Pedro probably. I mean, Pedro's got the penalties. Plus, not so many own him. So I'd definitely go with...
you like that differential Welbeck, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, some people gravitate on the ones that own the most, don't they? Because it's safer. But
that sounds like me.
I feel very seen. Way to play FPL.
That's me when I buy players, but then
two are equal If two players are equal, one's got 1% ownership and the other's got 99, you should pick the one that's got 1%. But people
really
don't.
go for it.
They'll pick the other one because you could, in terms of points, you can't say Welbeck's worse than Pedro for the next 2 weeks.
It is a 2-week punt, by the way.
Yeah.
So they're on Wildcard 6.
If anything, you'd say Welbeck is probably going to get more minutes than Pedro, especially this week.
Agreed. All right. Well, Nick, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything you want to say to the viewers? Where can they find you? Obviously, the link to your X profile will be in the video description as well. But yeah, just any final messages. We'd love to have you back again as well if you'll come back at some point this season.
Yeah, great to be here. And just enjoy your games, play your own games. Don't take too much store by what other people say, and just enjoy your FPL, because at the end of the day, you're not going to win it. So don't, so you may as well just enjoy it. And
have fun, yeah.
I think the best way to have fun is to just concentrate on your little mini leagues. I mean, that one you were in mine, the head-to-head league.
Yeah, I love that.
I really enjoy that. That's the first one I go and look to each week, just to see what kind of points everyone up. So you kind of break it down, And when you're trying to look at the overall, that's when you get disappointed, because you're always going to, it's always going to be an uphill battle. So, focus on the little mini leagues, enjoy them, have fun. And that's what FPL should be about, really, isn't it? So, that's basically it.
Couldn't agree
more. It's been great to be on the show. And got more to say, really. I've got to lace up and go and play golf in a minute. I've got to go and pick my mate up. We're going off to Avondale. We've got about 15 golf courses in Christchurch. It's incredible. So
wow.
We play we're always sneaking in. We get there really before the before the office opens and start playing. We start on hole 2 so no one sees us, and we sneak around.
I love that.
And scarper quick. Make a run for the car.
That's incredible. I'm going to ask you more about that next time you come on, and your old cricket stories as well. We didn't get a chat about that today.
Go to concerts and jump the fence and that sort of thing. Not because we don't like paying. It's like half the fun of going to these things is to go on a mission to get in.
I think anyone who's not played a head-to-head league, by the way, I definitely recommend it, as Nick said, because it's just like no matter how your season's going, like head-to-head is a whole different beast, and it keeps you interested in the game.
Yeah, they're very good, aren't they, the head-to-head leagues? A lot of people don't play them, do they?
I think they're so good. They're one of my favorite parts of FPL. I didn't know about them until recent years, and I definitely
you don't have to worry about overall or anything like that. Every week's like a new thing, isn't it, with the head-to-heads?
For sure. Well, Nick, enjoy your golf. We will get out of here, everyone. This was the Gameweek 4 special with Nick. As I mentioned at the start of the episode, I'll timestamp everything. Do go back and listen to Nick's history, his incredible history. In fact, I should say, I still think
ancient history.
Ancient history, but there was still
remember,
there
was only 10 people playing back then, and anyone could win FPL. All they had to do was turn up and they'd win.
Make a transfer every week.
That's what people say now, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a load of bollocks, because all the present content creators were all there then, and they were celebrating a top 10,000 finish, So it wasn't that easy. People say, it was really easy back then, but it really wasn't.
It wasn't.
It's probably harder now, I'd say, just because of the sheer number of players, isn't it? But it wasn't easy then, though. By any means, 1 million's still a lot of people. And,
it is.
So it wasn't that easy, and you weren't spoon-fed, and you had to actually work hard to find the info, didn't you? Which was good.
That there was a reward for the research, whereas now
you
you can research all week,
and no one else had it.
Yeah, now it's everywhere, right? It's so hard.
Now it just goes viral in like 10 seconds. It's like those tables for the expected things. Like they're really good.
Yeah.
In 10 seconds they've gone viral when everyone's seen them. So all information's out there, isn't it? It's like the stock market. It's all information's in the price, and it makes it harder in a way, doesn't it? But
I find that fun
easy.
though. I do find it fun though, because it's even more satisfying, right? Like when you do have that good season, like you feel like you've slogged it out. Like you're coming back from 3 million to 80k last year. Like that
Now,
in
that was
itself is amazing.
painful.
It's
But it's
painful,
so
but it's
painful.
amazing.
So painful. I think that was my team value. I got up to 108 million, and I just sailed home. I came home on a massive wave. I'll tell you what, I reckon another 4 or 5 weeks, and I'll have been right up in the top 10k, you know. Another 20 weeks, I'd have got my top 1,000, I reckon. I was sailing along.
This is the season, Nick. We're both going to try and get a
I'm
triple
not
digit
so sure.
rank.
I think it's going to be a disaster this week. So I'm going to take Haaland out. He's going to get another hat trick, and this will be the week where Salah doesn't equal him. This will be the week where Salah has 60 minutes. And he's got Champions League midweek. And
Just
I'm going to have to captain Salah, aren't I? So
yeah, I'm going to captain. I'm on Haaland captain right now, but I think I might move to Salah. I'm not sure yet.
If I had both, I'd definitely captain Haaland. But it's scary not having him. God, I hate wildcards. I wish I'd never pushed the button, because even now, Haaland, no Haaland. So what do you do? I'm hoping someone gets injured, to be honest. I was hoping
that's the only way you can decide easily.
I was hoping Haaland got injured, and it's easy, isn't it?
Nick, honestly, I just feel like I could talk to you forever. This show could have been 4 hours. I feel like I've rushed it, but that's why you're definitely going to have to come again, either to look at the disaster of the wild card or the success at some point. But we're definitely going to bring you on again. I think there's a few guests who want to come on with you, so maybe next time I'll try to bring Simon as well and see if we can do a full analytics breakdown. I get you guys and set you against each other, and I'll just watch it.
We're going to have some FPL boxing, are we? Virtual boxing
nice.
analytics.
Yeah, white collar boxing event. I'm ready for it.
Maybe this is the week when Eze and Fernandez and Armstrong will get.
They're all finally going to pop. Yeah.
Pedro, dunk, console, winks, 3 goals each. Edison goals, going to take a penalty this week, and analytics will be on fire.
They were, yeah. I think
I must confess, I've actually had a look at FPL review myself, and it is quite fun to tinker with, actually, isn't it?
It's a bit addictive, isn't it? Just like changing things and just like I only use the free model, but it's addictive.
To believe it.
Oh yeah. Like a lot of it's just like it's just something based on data that maybe if you don't know the inputs of the data, how can you value it as highly as what the model might, right?
Exactly, because you don't know what's gone into making up those projections, really, do you? So,
and they change by the day. Like you check the projected points.
At least they do
Tuesday,
change.
Wednesday.
Yeah, at least they change. I get really annoyed with Fantasy Scout because they had that rate my team feature, and they wouldn't change it for like weeks on end, and you'd have players that reckon we're going to get 0.2 points, and they'd been scoring like a hat trick for the last 3 weeks because they never updated it. So you reckon FPL review updates on a daily basis, does it?
Yeah, maybe even a few hours. Actually, one thing I should say is I did a poll on this episode, Nick. And before we go out, 77 people voted in this poll. And it said, are you on Wildcard? 43% are on Wildcard. So it's quite a popular week. Official FPL said it's the 9th most Wildcards active in history. And I can only imagine that number goes up by Friday, Saturday.
It's a good week to play it in a way because the transfer window's shut, and but again, it's so difficult. But I don't think it's going to get any easier, to be honest. It's not going to get any easier, is it? With Haaland and Salah and all.
So we're going to always have these decisions to make.
You're going to have a lot of tricky decisions to make, and that's why it's so good. But I still don't know. Honestly, I might well end up with Haaland and I had them all pre-season, Haaland and Salah. And then Jota came along. And in the week before, it became clear Jota was going to be the striker. And that kind of changed everything. It was like suddenly, you can take Salah out and put Jota in. Which was kind of true, wasn't it? Because he has played as a striker all 3 games. But that decision has been quite costly. But it's a decision a lot of people made, isn't it?
It is. I've just noticed we're getting to the point where new people are joining the stream. Milos just said hello, everyone. So I've just let Milos know. Sorry, bro. Like we're just wrapping up, but I'm going to timestamp all of this. You guys come back. Nick, I'm going to get you back. You get to your golf. I need to get up in a few hours to get to Paris for a work event. I'm leaving in a few hours and I'm gonna go walk the dog. But thank you, Nick. It's been a pleasure. I'm definitely going to bring you back. And yeah, to what I said, the ancient best manager in the world. You said ancient, not me. So that one's on you. Cheers, Nick. Cheers, everyone. We will be back next week. I'm actually going to bring on Hindu Monkey next week. So I know another old friend of yours, and I'm going to interrogate him. Yeah, I'm going to interrogate him, man.
League, isn't he?
But I have to interrogate him with that Muniz train that he did. Muniz better do something this weekend, Hindu Monkey, if you're watching, because I am going to roast you next week otherwise, bro. All right. Peace, everyone. Cheers. We will see you next week.